I think this is it. I think it might be happening. I think we might be finally getting our real down-to-earth, street-level Spider-Man in the MCU. I know it's been a while. It feels like we've had, what, Tom Holland Spider-Man for like 10 years now? 10 years. It's been 10 years. Jeez. So yeah, 10 years across, I think, 3 solo films and a couple of Avengers films as well. But it hasn't really felt like we've seen him be, you know, a genuine, really friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, aside from a few little snippets and scenes here and there. But really, really exciting week for Spider-Man fans and the unemployed, of which I am both. Just kidding, I have a job, I promise. Really, really exciting week for Spider-Man fans because we have just had a ton of new set footage drop from the set of Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, I was kind of just lukewarm on this film kind of across the board, only because I wasn't a massive fan of the Spider-Man trilogy by Tom Holland. They're amazing films, I just didn't think they hit as hard for me as the previous Spider-Man films with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. But having just seen the set footage that's come out across the last week, so for anyone who doesn't know yet, Spider-Man Brand New Day just started filming in Glasgow over in Scotland, and they've been filming like a pretty big set piece. Like this looks like it's gonna be some massive big action set piece that they've just decided to come out of the gate swinging and be like, you know what? Yeah, show everything. We've got explosions and we've got tanks driving and Spider-Man swinging and here's Tom Holland on the street taking selfies and there's just so much shit happening and it's really, really cool to see. And it's really, I think they have done this intentionally from a production point of view because it basically generates free hype and free marketing, just doing all this stuff publicly first. I think they're done now, at least all this big stuff in the streets of Glasgow, but the footage that's come out of this looks insane. The suit alone looks incredible. Being able to see, like, we got this teaser just before they started filming, which I think was a really good idea because it basically, well, obviously Sony and Marvel knew people are going to be getting photos of this as soon as this starts shooting on the streets, so they came out and released a little snippet of it. Now, in this particular spot here, or like this little bit of promotion, I wasn't hugely sold on the suit. I think it was just like the lens and the lighting, it gave it this weird kind of look to it, but seeing it like actually out in proper daylight and on Tom Holland in like normal lighting conditions, this thing looks incredible. It actually, in my head, or my head canon for what Tom Holland Spider-Man has done here, after meeting up with the 3 Spider-Man, it looks like, or 3 Spider-Men, sorry, it looks like he's kind of taken elements from all their suits and combined it into a brand new one. And as we know, going into Brand New Day, Peter Parker is broke, he's got no friends, he looks like he's gonna be sad and miserable all the time, which is just peak Peter Parker. We want that, we love that, we want to see it. Well, look, Spider-Man needs growth, I get it, but we just never really saw that in the MCU. In the MCU, he was always kind of really protected and coddled and kind of like always under the wing of Iron Man, and I understand where the saying Iron Boy Jr. came from. It's not 100% fair, but there's also some credit to that point there as well. But the point is, him making his own suit now and kind of basing it off of what he's seen Andrew and Tobey Spider-Mans have been wearing, I think is really cool. So on that note, we've got like the raised webbing on the suit now. So it's a little bit raised. And then we've also got that like underlying brick pattern, which is present on both Andrew and Tobey's suits. And they're like spidering, sorry, the spider on the back and kind of like the way that like the lines on the back go and how low down the spider sits on the chest is very kind of Andrew Garfield. And it just, oh man, this suit I think is I'm really, really excited for this. I mean, you only have to look behind me to see that in recent years, I have just been like a massive, ridiculously invested Batman fan to the point where I've spent a large portion of my life in recently putting together this bat suit. But Spider-Man was always my bread and butter growing up. He was the hero that I looked up to, that I aspired to, that I saw for the first time in the animated Spider-Man cartoon and was like, whoa, this is rewiring my brain. Like this is something special. And so then Tobey's films when I was young, and then when I was into my teen years, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, like that was it for me. That was so cool. Like he was the hero that I looked up to, that I wanted to be. The impossibility of that be damned. I wanted to be, I needed to be Spider-Man. When of course I learned that, you know, Spider-Man was joining the MCU and we got his introduction in Civil War, I loved that. I thought that was incredible. And I thought that worked really well, bringing him into an established Avengers universe. I'd wanted that for so many years, and by so many years, I mean, look, as long as the Avengers franchise was kind of taking off in the MCU, I was like, man, they've got to get Spider-Man in here. And I know there was early talks of that happening like way back in 2012 with the Amazing Spider-Man coming out and the Avengers. Basically, there was reports that Sony and Marvel were trying to work out how to get Oscorp Tower into the Avengers skyline. So they'd been in talks for a while, I think, to try and merge the universes, and then eventually, you know, we ended up with Tom Holland's Spider-Man joining eventually in Civil War and then having his trilogy of films in there. But again, they always felt a little bit more like Spider-Man and the Avengers, which is fine. That's great. We all want that. But I feel like we really missed out on that street level grit of Spider-Man just kind of toughing it out, where he's just doing street level stuff. And I know, look, all this footage that we've seen from Scotland looks, you know, it's street level literally, but it's like, you know, we've got tanks and stuff and explosions. It feels very much like the what year did it come out, 2020? The Spider-Man PS4 video game, where you've got Mr. Negative driving that big RV tank thing down the street and there's all this crap happening. It literally feels exactly like this. And now Mr. Negative actually is, I think, rumored to be in the film. I don't think he's been confirmed, but we've got the Inner Demon symbol on the side of the truck here. I'm pretty sure this is his Inner Demon's symbol here. I think there's also some theories that Frank might be driving this because the Punisher is reported to be in the film as well. He might be in the tank. I'm not sure. Basically, in this set footage, it looks like Spider-Man is trying to break into the tank. Seeing the practical stunts done for this is so cool. Now, we haven't seen practical stunts done for a Spider-Man film since, and when I say practical stunts, I mean the practical swinging stunts. I don't think we've really properly seen this since the first Amazing Spider-Man film. And this just, this is such a joy to me because a lot of the Spider-Man stuff from John Watts' Spider-Man films, it felt, yeah, there were some cool moments, but it didn't really hit. It didn't really have that like swinging source of like Andrew Garfield's swinging scenes. I think undisputably are some of the best stuff we've had, specifically in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't think anything has ever topped that. Fingers crossed this does. We've got the director of Shang-Chi on this one as well, who I want to say that film was underrated, but I feel like so many people are saying Shang-Chi is underrated now that it's probably just the right amount of rated. So you take from that what you will. But anyway, he has this experience from Shang-Chi, these big spectacle fight scenes that look really impressive and flow really well, that clearly have a lot of CGI in them. And of course, I know the end of Shang-Chi devolved into this bit of a big CGI fight, which I'm okay with. I love a big CGI fight, as long as it looks good and has like a nice kind of visual flow to it that just kind of like fires the neurons up here to be like, yeah, that is cool. Love that. I think that's what we need for a Spider-Man film. A lot of Tom Holland's, I mean, there was elements of that in the first 3 Spider-Man films that we had with Tom Holland, but it was just missing, I think, a lot of the like this kind of source from The Amazing Spider-Man. And Dustin Daniel Cretton, I forgot his name. Geez, I'll put it up on the screen. But anyway, he's directing this, and the fact that they have come straight out of the gate being like, yep, we're doing this practically. We're gonna have a stuntman swinging behind a moving tank with explosions blowing up, and like, that is so cool. And of course, they're probably gonna paint over it and touch it up with CGI. But the fact that they do it practically, that screams to me that they're moving in the right direction with these films. Now, I know this is only like a week's worth of like really introductory set footage, so it's really hard to gauge the feel of an entire film off of this alone, but it looks like this could be one of the best Spider-Man films in years. I have a lot of love for the TASM films. I know they get their kind of criticisms, and they have valid criticisms against them, but they just had like an actual like visual style to them. And I think the fact that they did a lot of practical stunts, Mark Webb felt like he really had a vision for the character, whereas John Watts' Spider-Man films felt a little bit more sterile. Now, that's not to say they're bad films. Of course, I have my personal issues with those films where I feel like at times they don't feel like authentic Spider-Man stories. They feel like kind of Avengers, pseudo-Avengers kind of films, but Homecoming was really good. I really liked Homecoming. Far From Home, I have my issues with Is it Far From Home or No Way Home? Far From Home. Far From Home, No Way Home. Sorry. The amount of the naming conventions as well with the films just kind of really pissed me off at a certain point, because I'd be trying to talk to my friends about it and like saying Far From Home or No Way Home and getting them confused. I know that seems simple, but it's the From Home and the Homewares, Home Alone, Home Timber and Hardware and what was I saying? Completely lost my train of thought. That's what you've done to me with your titling, Marvel. Just distinguish the films by name. Damn it. Far From Home, I had my issues with it. No Way Home, I liked, but it felt more like a spectacle event rather than like a real Spider-Man story. Okay, no. I'm gonna cop crap for that on here, because it was a real Spider-Man story, and it gave Tom Holland's Peter Parker like the full proper character development arc to get to the point of, okay, with great power comes great responsibility. I've got to do this thing and be Spider-Man now, and I've voluntarily said, let the world forget me to save the world, and now it's on me to do the best I can with what I have, which is not very much. I'm broke, poor, and alone, but I'm still gonna go out there and be Spider-Man. Which is where we're at now, basically. And to see him just immediately like, whoopee, there's explosions and saving kids on the street, and I know this isn't in the film, but Tom Holland taking selfies in this freaking amazing Spider-Man suit that I really want to do a cosplay for. Actually, on that note, I promise I'm not a fake fan, because you're probably sitting here being like, this guy just has a Batman suit. Why is he talking about Spider-Man? But I promise you, I do have Spider-Man stuff planned. Hang on. I whipped this bad boy out of my cupboard, but yeah, I've been planning to do like a TASM Spider-Man suit for the longest time, but like actually like getting that kind of screen printed and then all puff painted, and then it's a huge task. So I kind of shelved this for a little while, and I probably will come back to it, but after seeing the new suit, I'm like, damn, that thing is speaking to me. It's whispering things in my ear. But you know, ultimately, I just take a really long time to get anything done on my cosplay projects. The Batsuit alone took me like 18 months, bare minimum, to get going. So it kind of gave me a little bit of PTSD, but I really, really want to start doing some more Spider-Man cosplays. Just the TASM 1 suit, I think it was so unique, and you could see like just the texturing and the weathering and the detail on it. It was so freaking amazing that also it hit me in a really like formative part of my teenage years. I think how old was I at the time? Would I have been 13, 14? I can't remember when that came out, but again, it was like, damn, that's really cool. But all of that aside, I've got a TASM cosplay at some point coming up. I promise I'm not a fake fan. See? It's falling off my face. So yeah, look, I'll finish this up. I'd love to do a TASM 2 suit as well, along with, again, I'll probably never really want to touch a lot of the MCU suits. The Homecoming suit was okay. I didn't mind that. Again, over-designed to hell and back. Not gonna lie, a lot of the MCU suits didn't really like. Kinda ugly, kinda gross to look at. Made me feel a little bit nauseous. They're kind of the definition of over-design. There's just too many lines and shit on it, and I feel like we're kind of moving back to an era where comic book suits are just a little bit simpler. At least it feels like that. I quite liked, on that note, sorry, just to sidetrack, Superman's suit, pretty cool. I like that. It's kind of drawing the line a little bit between over-designed and classic. Like, it's pushing a little bit far too over-designed, more just because there's the lines and stuff. I understand on like moving from a comic book to like a film, you need more kind of visual pieces to kind of break the suit up. I think the only instance where it does work is probably the TASM 1 suit. I want to say it has a lot of lines on it, but it's a Spider-Man suit. Of course it's gonna have lines on it, but there was just a lot of like, the stuff going down the legs and stuff. And anyway, I might talk about that in another video, because I could do a whole video on Spider-Man suits and what works with them and what doesn't work with them, but I digress. Most of the MCU Spider-Man suits, not a vibe for me, but this new one, I probably will have a crack at it. Now, I've gotten really sidetracked. I was mainly talking about how cool this brand new day stuff looks. I think we're finally getting a street level Spider-Man story for the ages. We've got Hulk, we've got Punisher. I don't know how I feel about the Hulk being in this specifically. I think it's more of a Marvel Studios, Sony deal mandate, where they've got to put like a major Avengers character in every Spider-Man film for this deal to work. I think that's written in there. I've seen that somewhere. I don't know how accurate that is, but anyway. I want to hear from you guys though. Do you like where they're taking this? Do you not like where they're taking this? I know most of the people who probably follow me care more about the Batman than Spider-Man stuff, but hey, I love talking about everything superheroes related. So you're gonna get that from me from time to time, just a bit of everything on this channel. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. I'm keen to hear your thoughts. And yeah, I'll definitely talk more about Spider-Man as more details come out. And I also will share with you guys more details on cosplays and things, because I know I've got all my kind of couple of tutorials and things up for how I made parts of the bat suit. So I'll definitely continue that trend as I work on a couple of Spider-Man suits. But thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.